What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, guys, so we are basically going to continue our coverage over the Hellfire Gala Event. Now, remember, the Hellfire Gala Event was basically a way for Marvel to say that mutants are no longer second class, that mutants are now first class. And honestly, it's not a way of saying like the mutants now rule the world, but mutants should no longer be hated on anymore. Because look at what mutants were able to accomplish in their short period of time being a nation. Because remember, after House of X and Power of X, the mutant race, most of them live on COPPA. They are a mutant nation. Now, with that being said, though, the Hellfire Gala event was a way for the mutants to invite the humans, very important humans, to this party, but to show up and say, look at what we accomplished. Look at what we did. In the short period of time that you guys let us be a nation, we have done so much. Now, on top of that, you also have the mutants basically show off that they have turned Mars into a livable planet, meaning that humans and mutants can now live on Mars if they wanted to. And this is a huge accomplishment for the mutant race. And so right now, it's the mutants showing, if you guys had let us work with you, the Earth could have been better off. A lot of things could have been done for our race, the human race. But of course, you guys hated us so much because we were mutants. Now, when it comes to the Hellfire Gala event, it does use every single X-Men title. So X-Men, X-Factor, X-Force, but each chapter focuses on a different team or character. Now today, we're going to focus on Way of X. Way of X was actually a 5-part miniseries where the third issue was basically a tie-in for this event. Not really a tie-in, but it was used as part of the crossover for the Hellfire Gala event. And so you have 1, 2, then you have 3 being part of a crossover, then 4 and 5 being by itself. It's a really weird way how Marvel did it. But basically, Way of X was Nightcrawler trying to build some kind of religion because he feels like the mutant race is falling apart with their laws. The laws to kind of keep mutants in order, but at the same time, mutants have lost their way, where mutants are no longer scared of dying, and mutants are no longer scared of the idea that the mutant race could go extinct, because if they die, they're brought back to life just like that. And of course, one of the laws said mutants should make more mutants, have mutant babies. But people are not trying to do that because they're kind of like, why would we? If we die, we're able to come back to life to keep the mutant race going. Now, Way of X really focuses on Nightcrawler alone, but also other characters as well. And so, of course, with the book basically focusing on Nightcrawler, we actually do pick up with Nightcrawler right now at the Hellfire Gala event, but he's drunk. Like, homeboy has been drinking. But while he has been drinking, he has been talking to different characters at the party. Now, of course, it's him kind of saying that basically the mutant race needs some kind of religion. Because right now, the mutant race is falling apart. There's no structure. It's him saying that when people have a religion, they have some kind of structure. But of course, with the mutant race not actually having a religion, there is no structure. Yes, you have the 3 laws, but those laws are not really good at giving people some kind of structure. And so it's Nightcrawler, who's drunk right now at the party, going to different characters and saying, we need a religion. We need some kind of system that basically builds some kind of structure in our race, in our community. Now, the next day, we actually do pick up with Nightcrawler hungover. Like, dude is literally hungover. And so, of course, as soon as he wakes up, he does call up Dr. Nemesis. Now, remember, Dr. Nemesis is basically a genius and a scientist. Now, with that being said, though, Dr. Nemesis basically calls up Nightcrawler and says, hey, man, listen, I heard what happened. Like, you were drunk. I heard the stories. And I knew you and maybe a few other people might need a drink that can kind of help with a hangover. And so, of course, you do have Nightcrawler teleport over to Dr. Nemesis to have that drink to basically get rid of his hangover. Now, right after Nightcrawler did that right there, you do have Nightcrawler be contacted by Legion. And remember, Legion is the son of Charles Xavier. Now, with that being said, though, remember, as soon as Legion came back to life, we found out that basically Onslaught is also alive again as well. And Onslaught is this character right now working behind the scenes and basically attacking people's minds without actually knowing they're being attacked. Now remember, Onslaught was a powerful being that was made out of the hatred of Magneto and the fact that Charles Xavier lost patience against the human race. And so with the patience lost from Charles Xavier and the hatred from Magneto combined into one, that basically it made a powerful being known as Onslaught. Now Onslaught is really just a psychic being, a psychic creature. And of course, the last time the world saw Onslaught, he was defeated. And of course, everyone believed that he was long gone forever, but now he's kind of coming back. And the question is, though, how? How in the world did Onslaught come back? How did a psychic creature come alive again after being defeated so many years ago? And so you have Legion say, let me focus on Onslaught while you, Nightcrawler, try to kind of make the laws a more structured system to give structure to our mutant race on this island. Now, that is the moment where we basically do pick up with Legion. And right now you have Legion on Arakko. And remember, Arakko is now on Mars. Now, with that being said, though, you do have Pixie confront Legion. And the reason why, because right now she knows two mutants that are unable to have fun time. And the reason why, because one of the mutants, I want to say is Laura, has the ability to shred things as soon as she touches it. And the problem is, though, usually she can control those powers, but when she's really excited, she can't control those powers. And so, of course, right now it's Pixie coming to Legion saying, hey, I need your help. I need your help to basically have these two characters have psychic you know what in the bedroom, because they're unable to actually do it in a bedroom. Now, getting back over to Nightcrawler, we actually do pick up with Nightcrawler right now kind of getting very upset when he finds out that somebody has been basically passing out birth control pills. And the reason why, because of course there are people out there who do not want to get pregnant. They don't want to have babies. But for Nightcrawler, the reason why he's mad, because he's trying to hope that the laws that were basically made back in House of X and Power of X will still give the mutant race some kind of structure. And so when he finds out that basically Stacy X, this other character, has been going around passing out birth control pills to basically help people not get pregnant, it makes him upset, because one of the three laws basically says, make more mutants, make some babies. If you are a mutant and your counterpart is also a mutant, go to bedroom, have some fun, make some babies, and make more mutants. Build up our numbers. But you have a lot of mutants think like, no, why would I do that? Because that law was basically made to kind of make sure the race continues. But if we have the ability now to basically bring us back to life again after we die, thanks to the 5, then why in the world would I want to make babies when I can live young forever? And so, of course, that law basically fell apart. And when you have a character like Stacy X, who's going around passing out birth control pills to make sure folks don't get pregnant, it makes Nightcrawler very upset. He's kind of like, you're basically breaking our first law. But it's Stacy X saying, you have to realize there are people who want to experience different things in different ways without the idea of dealing with something after they had that experience. A lot of people want to have you know what time in different kinds of ways, but of course they can't do that after they get pregnant. mean, they can, but of course, it's kind of like now they're kind of stuck with a kid. And some folks do not want to have a kid. And so it's Stacy X saying, you have to realize there are a lot of religions out there in the world that basically take sex and, of course, puts it on a pedestal. But of course, it gets changed on what the idea of sex actually is about. But when it comes to Stacy X, sex should just be a fun, intimate thing between two people, and that's it. There should be no laws or rules set on the word or the idea of sex. Now, getting back over to Legion and also Pixie, remember, Legion is helping out two mutants to have a psychic you-know-what session. And of course, for Legion, he's kind of like, these kind of sessions are very different than your regular day in-person kind of session, because usually when it comes to two people having psychic you-know-what, it's kind of like a million first dates all in one setting. And of course, the experience is great. It's amazing. Now, of course, while you have Legion actually doing that for these two mutants, well, that is the moment one mutant begins to freak out. And it's kind of like, why would she freak out in a very lovely psychic you-know-what kind of session? And that is the moment Legion finds out that basically Onslaught is attacking the minds of these two mutants. Now, of course, you do have Legion try to capture the monster, to capture Onslaught. But the problem is, though, Onslaught gets away once again. And it tells Legion that basically Onslaught is hiding in the minds of the people. And he's basically attacking folks in different kinds of ways for different kinds of reasons. And so now is Legion wondering, what could he possibly do down the road to basically capture Onslaught? Now that is the moment where we basically jump over to Nightcrawler and Stacy X. Now, this is Stacy X showing Nightcrawler what's wrong with the first law. Of course, make more babies. The law that Nightcrawler is trying to protect, where you have people actually making babies but not want to take care of those babies. And so right after a child is born, most times on COPPA, that child is getting left behind. And because COPPA does not have some kind of adoption system, right now you have a lot of babies being raised in a makeshift orphanage in a brothel. And that's how wrong it is right now. And that is what Stacy X is trying to show Nightcrawler. Your law is falling apart because the Quiet Council made one law and thought it was a good idea and left it alone. But of course, they did not make any kind of system around that one law. Now, luckily for these kids, they do have somebody watching over them. And that will be Marinette, also known as Lost. Now, we actually met her back in Way of X #1 and #2, but basically she's a character that kind of lost her mutant ability back in the middle of House of M. And of course, her ability is to be able to stretch her body, but to also control gravity around her. Now, with that being said, she did lose her powers in the middle of House of M. And of course, when she did lose her powers, she was, well, stretching her body out. And of course, when her power disappeared, her body stayed in that stretched out form. Now, Magneto killed her so that she'll be able to come back to life and be a mutant once again and use her powers, the ability to stretch and also to control gravity. Now, with that being said, though, while she's kind of helping out to take care of a bunch of babies, well, that is the moment you do have Fabian Cortez appear in the room. Now remember, Fabian Cortez has the mutant ability to basically charge up another mutant powers to make a mutant more powerful than they already were. Now, of course, he's at the brothel looking for, well, you know, fun time. But as soon as he arrives in the brothel, well, that is the moment you have Lost get very angry, where it seems like she has some kind of history with Fabian Cortez. And we have no idea what that history is, but we do know that she basically wants to kill him. But that is the moment we come to find out that basically Lost, Marinette, is being possessed by something else. And of course, she's being possessed by Onslaught, because Onslaught is the character who's working behind the scenes, who's kind of building off people hatreds towards different things. And so with Lost hating on basically Fabian Cortez, it's Onslaught hiding in her body. Now, Lost does hate Fabian. She really hates Fabian. But it's Onslaught taking it to a whole new level. And so right now you have Fabian Cortez and Lost fighting against one another to the point where they're trying to kill one another. But while they're fighting against one another, well, that is the moment you do have Legion appear. And as soon as Legion appears, that is the moment you have Onslaught just run away once again to hide in someone else's body. And that's the problem, because now with millions of mutants living on COPPA, it won't be easy to follow him. Now, the way this story actually ends for Way of X number 3 is really more of the idea that basically you have Nightcrawler, Legion, Pixie, and Dr. Nemesis being able to kind of gather at the bar that's on COPPA. And you do have Stacy X there as well. But with this whole storyline right here for Nightcrawler, is Nightcrawler kind of realizing that basically his idea of a baby boom for the mutant race is not going to work if there's no system around that law that was made by the Quiet Council. But you have Stacy X kind of point out and say, listen, when it comes to the sexual stuff, the naughty side of life, that right there has to be worked out in its own kind of way for our island. We can't try to control that, because when you do, it's going to lead to more problems. Yes, I know you're trying to build some kind of structure, build some kind of community, build some kind of thing where we're all together as one. But the problem is, though, we have powers, and with our powers make us different. And with us being different, we all can't be on the same page like you want us to be on. And so with that, it's going to make all your laws very difficult to basically follow. And so it's Stacy X saying, you need a new game plan, a better game plan, one that will actually work. Now, of course, that is the moment we do see Dr. Nemesis kind of hit on Dazzler, and they do have a dance together, which honestly is not that important. Well, I could say that it is Dr. Nemesis doing a dare, kind of going on his own path and not try to follow a path that most people follow. And it's him going after a girl that he would not usually date, because Dazzler is a pop star, and with him being a scientist, he would most likely want someone who's also a scientist. It's him going his own pathway. But either way, though, this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, I'll see y'all next time. Later.